It's safe to say that Ricochet flat out embarrassed himself on social media. This situation was so bad that TMZ even reported this. I don't care what anybody says, what Ricochet said was stupid, and it was really irresponsible on his end. There's nothing wrong with staying in character, especially outside of the ring, and especially on social media as well, but there is a certain line you just don't cross, and unfortunately, Ricochet crossed that line. Tony Khan almost bought WWE, and I am not shocked, unlike a lot of other people on social media. I don't care what anybody says, and I am a fan of Tony Khan's. If Tony Khan had bought WWE, it would have been bad for the business, because it's basically one guy controlling the entire industry, and that is never a good thing at the end of the day.
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Get stealing, woo, wheeling, dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kurt Angle, yeah. Why, Triple H, you son of a tell me why. And Tony Khan, this is also on you.
I am going to ruin wrestling.
Just get over it.
People love to embarrass themselves on social media. It's quite hilarious, but at the same time, it's quite sad. It's quite sad at the end of the day, but the saddest part of it all is that, like, people embarrass themselves on social media, but they don't even realize that they're embarrassing themselves. Like, they don't even listen to themselves speak sometimes, you know? And we see that with a lot of people, not just wrestlers. We see it with celebrities. We see it with people who aren't celebrities at all. We see it with normal human beings on social media. You know, social media, in a way, I mean, it's a constant evolution. You know, social media is something that is constantly evolving, especially with AI now. Like, AI is growing at a very scary pace. But social media, man, like, it really shows. It's, in a way, it can show the best of people, but at the same time, it shows the worst of people. And we definitely saw that this week. Of course, if you guys know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, I'm talking about Ricochet, which we will be talking about on this very show. By the way, that's actually going to be our first topic on this edition of the WrestleHavoc podcast. Oh yeah, I forgot. This is the WrestleHavoc podcast. It is Sunday, March 22nd, 2026. I'm not going to lie, man. I'm very tired. I'm very, very, very tired. I feel very sleepy. That was because I had a great meal. Had a steak today. Had multiple steaks, actually. But, yeah, man, I'm feeling a little tired. So if I sound a little weird, my apologies. But, man, this week in terms of weather, was very weird. Like, you know, a couple of days ago, it was freezing cold, like unbelievably cold. It was insane. And then a couple days later, it's like 60-something degrees, and it feels like, you know, like it feels like you're sweating all of a sudden. Like, it's crazy. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know about New Jersey, but like, New Jersey is such a weird state in terms of weather. Like, one day it's snowing, the other day it's not. One day it's freezing cold, and the other day it's like 70 freaking degrees. It's absolutely crazy. But hey, it's New Jersey. What do you expect? But we're definitely going to be talking about a lot of things right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. Of course, we're going to be talking about Ricochet and his stupid comments that he made on social media that got him in hot water. You know, it got so bad to the point that TMZ even reported this whole story. And it's not only bad publicity for Ricochet, but it's also bad publicity for AEW as a whole. Also, this story definitely brought out the worst of people, and we're also going to be talking about that. And what I mean is, of course, I'm going to be talking about the threats that, of course, not only Ricochet but Samantha Irvin got coming out of this whole story. And look, Ricochet, I'm not going to be defending Ricochet in any way, shape, or form from the comments that he said. I'm not. But getting death threats, doesn't make, sending death threats doesn't make any situation better. If anything, it makes it worse. Not only that, the people that are sending these types of threats to Ricochet, Ricochet and Samantha Irvin are number one, not good. They're not good people. And number two, they're just, they just want attention, and they honestly just do not care about any particular situation whatsoever. Like, this situation definitely brought out the worst in people. And I'm going to be talking about that on this edition of the show. We're also going to be talking about Ronda Rousey's status. Toni Storm looks like she's going to be out for a significant amount of time. Double or Nothing. The ticket sales are looking pretty good for Double or Nothing in New York. All In as well. Tickets just went on sale for All In at Wembley Stadium. Almost 20,000 tickets sold already for All In. The capacity is around 37,000, which, 37,000, let's be honest, 37,000 in a stadium that fills well over 80,000 is kind of sad, to be quite honest with you, but we're going to be talking about that as well. Dennis Rodman has been announced for the WWE Hall of Fame. And we're also going to be talking about Tony Khan. It was revealed this week that Tony Khan placed a bid to purchase WWE, which shocked a lot of people, but I wasn't really that shocked considering Tony Khan is a billionaire and he has a lot of money that he can just, spend. So he's like, yay, why not buy WWE, yeah? But I'm going to talk about that I'm going to talk about that story and why it would have been bad if Tony Khan had purchased WWE. But yeah, this is the WrestleHavoc podcast once again. It is Sunday, March 22nd, 2026. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the show. If you guys are watching this on the WrestleHavoc podcast channel, thank you guys so much. Please like and subscribe. I upload clips from the podcast on the channel as well. But also, if you guys are watching on WNN platforms, whether or not that's the WNN YouTube channel or WNN Facebook page, I thank you guys so much for watching me on those platforms as well. But without any further ado, let's get straight into talking about all things professional wrestling. All right, we're going to start off with basically our top story, and that is Ricochet. Ricochet. How many times I said Ricochet? I don't know. But Ricochet was in hot water this week. And as you guys all know, Ricochet, he left WWE and he ended up going to AEW. And he basically took on this new heel persona. And I'm going to say this right here and right now. In terms of Ricochet's run in AEW, I've been pretty much enjoying his run in AEW. Some people do not like his heel work. Other people like his heel work. You got to admire the man for at least trying. You know what I'm saying? Like, he when he was in the WWE, everybody constantly gave him flack about how he couldn't cut a promo, all that stuff. He at least in Ricochet in AEW, like, he's trying to bring out some character work, and I appreciate that. It's also, it's not, it's also known that Ricochet tends to be a little crazy on social media, especially with this new heel persona. He wants to, in a way, keep kayfabe alive and be in character when he's on social media, and he wants to do the good old MJF shtick. But I'm going to say this right here and right now. Not everybody's MJF. I don't think Ricochet's even trying to be MJF. And MJF does a lot of heinous things, in terms of kayfabe. Ricochet, on the other hand, Ricochet, like, MJF actually, like, sees a limit, in terms of his heel character. He does a lot of heinous things in kayfabe, but he at least sees the limit, in terms of his character. And he tries his best to really not go over that limit and not cross that line. Ricochet, on the other hand, didn't even realize that there was a line that there could have been that there could be crossed, and he crossed that line. Ricochet crossed the line, no pun intended, in terms of his tweet earlier this week. The situation was so bad that TMZ themselves, yes, TMZ, Of course, these people love, writing and reporting, a lot of crazy situations involving celebrities. You guys know TMZ. Everybody knows TMZ. This situation was so bad that TMZ reported this whole thing. And if TMZ has something on your ass, you're in hot water. And Ricochet was definitely in hot water this week. I'm reading this, as I stated earlier, on TMZ. Ricochet, yes, Ricochet, tells a woman on X that he is quote-unquote glad she has MS. And then he issues an apology. AEW star Ricochet is facing a ton of backlash this week after he told a woman he's glad she's battling multiple sclerosis, leading the wrestler to share his regret over the statement. The exchange went down on March 16th, when the woman appeared to be criticizing the former WWE talent's acting abilities. The woman stated this, and I quote, "His acting," or a bunch of laughing emojis, "his acting hasn't improved." And then Ricochet replied at 10:56 a.m. on the 16th of March, 2026, "I'm glad you got MS." Ricochet then apparently went to her page and then read her bio, which shared a motivational line about her experience with chronic autoimmune disease, because his response made a reference to it. And then, of course, it states the tweet that he stated, but I already stated it. Ricochet's insensitive comment has since been deleted, and the woman went private on X. The wrestler had an apparent change of heart the day later, as he issued an apology. And he stated this, and I quote, "I took out my hatred for the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community." God, I hate that term, the Internet Wrestling Community, the IWC. It's crazy. Like, I have a YouTube channel. I have multiple YouTube channels. The other one, not just this channel, the other one related to wrestling, WrestleHavoc. I try my best not to call the wrestling community the IWC because it's such a small niche, and it's embarrassing. The community as a whole is just cancerous. But he stated this, and I quote, Ricochet, that being, "I took out my hatred for the IWC, that being the Internet Wrestling Community, on Sandy, and inadvertently others who are affected by MS. She didn't deserve it, and for that, I sincerely apologize." Ricochet ended his message by vowing to do better moving forward. This actually got him in hot water. Wow. Getting Ricochet in hot water in a way. I don't know. I can't believe I said that. Again, I am super tired, but man, words are just randomly flowing through my head. This got Ricochet in hot water. And no, not in a way. But Ricochet got Ricochet in hot water all over social media. All over social media, people were upset about Ricochet for his comments. A lot of people were rightfully upset about Ricochet's comments. It got him in hot water in AEW, I assume. And apparently reports were coming out that they were glad that, Ricochet apologized. Everybody was creating but everybody was talking about how, the media didn't report on it. I could care less about that, because at the end of the day, the dirt sheets will always be the dirt sheets. And, the dirt sheets, you got to always take the dirt sheets with a grain of salt, because they always tend to embarrass themselves. But it is what it is. This is all about, this is not about the media. This is about Ricochet. This whole thing it should not be stemmed around the media, even though a lot of people in the wrestling space think that, the media is in Tony Khan's back pocket, which in a way, if you watch the media scrums, you can understand why they think that. If you watch these media scrums, some of the questions that the media asks is quite honestly embarrassing. Quite honestly embarrassing at the end of the day. So it's understandable as to why they think that. But I'm going to be talking about Ricochet and Ricochet only, because there is a certain line that you cannot cross in terms of acting as a heel. And I understand you want to make the people hate you, but sometimes being a heel, especially outside the ring, will only get you so far. And I'm going to be honest, as much as I appreciate Ricochet's effort into being a heel, and I've been enjoying a lot of his work. I think he's vastly, trying to improve his character. My biggest issue with Ricochet is his social media. And I understand he wants people to garner a reaction. I totally get it. And hell, I was on this very podcast last year defending Ricochet and actually being on Ricochet's side when the whole Ricochet and Javon Evans social media back and forth dispute went down. If you guys do not remember, Ricochet and Javon Evans had a lot of back and forth to do on social media, and in a way kind of got Javon Evans in hot water, got Ricochet, and I don't want to say Ricochet in hot water, but a lot of people were defending Javon Evans, and understandably so, but at the same time, Javon Evans said a lot of stupid things as well. And he, in a way, took the bait and did what Ricochet wanted him to do, and that was engage. And a lot of times in the social media space, we call these types of people grifters. We call these people grifters, and we call them grifters for a certain reason. Whenever they say something super controversial, they want to garner a reaction, whether that is negative or positive. We see it all the time. Grifters are all over, not only on the wrestling space, we see it in any other industry, whether that is entertainment, music, movies. We see it in pop culture. We see it in politics, especially in politics, especially now. It's crazy. It's crazy. Grifters exist. They exist. Ricochet, in my opinion, his social media kind of reminds me of a toxic ex-girlfriend. That's, to me, like, after a year, well after, ever since he came into AEW. And look, I respect Ricochet. I'm a big fan of Ricochet. This is not me turning on Ricochet in any way, shape, or form. Look, I've always said this about people. You can like them all you want, but if you do not, notice their flaws, clearly you are in denial about any situation that is going on. Like CM Punk, for example. I'm a big CM Punk fan, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to kiss CM Punk's ass when it comes to everything that he says, because let's be honest, CM Punk can be an idiot sometimes. Let's be real with ourselves. CM Punk can be an idiot sometimes, and he could be making the dumbest decisions possible. Like the whole AEW fiasco, let's be honest, a lot of that stemmed with a lot of things around CM Punk, but like, come on, CM Punk kind of put himself in that situation as well. You can like somebody, but at the same time, you can point out their flaws. I don't understand this mentality that, because we like somebody, they are always perfect. And, oh my God, this guy's amazing. He's amazing. He has no flaws. Everybody has flaws in the real world. Everybody has flaws. And unfortunately, Ricochet and his social media, in a way, embarrasses not only Ricochet, but it also embarrasses the promotion that he's with, which is AEW. Ricochet, again, when it comes to his social media, he sounds like a toxic ex-girlfriend who does not know when to lay off social media. And unfortunately, this instance with Ricochet, saying, I'm glad you got MS, got him in hot water, and rightfully so. If I'm Tony Khan, I'd probably suspend Ricochet. I would have suspended Ricochet. I would have suspended Ricochet for the comment that he said, because it's a stupid comment. It really is a stupid comment. It really is. People say stupid things on the internet. People say really, really, really stupid things on the internet. But at the same time, this situation actually brought out the worst of humanity on social media. I'm reading this again from TMZ. Ricochet's wife, Samantha Irvin, targeted with death threats amid MS post backlash. Ricochet's controversial post telling a woman he's quote-unquote glad she has multiple sclerosis has had a major impact on his family. The AEW star's wife and former WWE ring announcer Samantha Irvin went on social media to deeply concerning messages that she has received amid the backlash. Irvin, who deactivated her ex account after her husband's distasteful exchange, published several screenshots of DMs she's gotten on Instagram this week, with some users going as far as threatening her and Ricochet's lives. And she shows a bunch of screenshots of these I don't even want to call them humans, because these people are obviously like cancerous to society, in my opinion, but she shows screenshots of death threats. The original comment came after a woman criticized Ricochet's acting skills, and then he replied by saying, "I'm glad you got MS." The woman followed up with, "Well, if that makes you happy, have a great life." While Ricochet was clearly in character, most wrestling fans say he took his role too far, and he apparently agreed because he later deleted the comment and apologized. And of course, TMZ, says the statement that I already said. I took on my hatred on the IWC on Sandy, and they showed his apology. Ricochet and Irvin went public with their relationship in 2021 and got married in 2025, and they both worked at WWE and left around the same time when he joined AEW. Okay. When it comes to this situation, look, again, I'm not going to defend Ricochet in any way, shape, or form, because Ricochet, again, his comments were ridiculously stupid. Like, you cannot sit here and defend Ricochet. Again, he took it way too far in terms of what he said. Again, there's a certain limit. There's a line that you just don't cross, especially when you're acting as a heel. There is a line when you don't cross that you don't cross, and that goes to any heel in the business. Again, I think Ricochet needs to lay off social media. He was just very sounds like a toxic ex-girlfriend. That's how he sounds. And again, he's not only embarrassing himself, but he's embarrassing the company that he's working for. He's embarrassing the promotion that he's working for, unfortunately. You got to lay off social media, buddy. You sound like an idiot sometimes. Like I can vividly see like Ricochet would constantly, reply to like any, wrestler in WWE or like a Triple H, and like he would just go off. And I'm like, dude, I get it. You hate where you worked at before. I totally understand. I get your frustration, but like, dude, we get it. We get it. And unfortunately, his comments on social media sounded, it got him in hot water. But one thing I will say, and I talked about this, and I said this earlier, but this situation brought out the worst in people. And I think sending death threats to Ricochet's family members, especially his wife, is very, number one, concerning, but number two, like, it shows the lack of morality in people. And unfortunately, in the way of the world that we live in, and it's not just with wrestling, it's really in general as a society, people love celebrating other people's deaths, and it's honestly very scary. We live in an age where people are celebrating other people's deaths, and you have people literally just out of the blue randomly sending death threats to another wrestler, a wrestler's wife. Like, what kind of world do we live in? You know what I'm saying? Situations like this bring out the worst in humanity. It does. It brings out the worst in humanity. And I'm gonna try to be a good influence and say this right here and right now. Anybody watching this, do not be like these people. Do not be like these people sending death threats, because number one, when you send death threats like that, it clearly shows that you are not a good human being. You're not a good human being whatsoever. Especially now, like, what good does it do for you for sending death threats like that? Like, I get it. Ricochet's comments were horrible comments by Ricochet. And he apologized for it. Now, how sincere was the apology? I have no idea. But the fact that it makes, people like these people go on social media and immediately DM his wife, immediately DMing his wife and just sending her death threats is honestly really disgusting. And us as people, we got to do better. because this is definitely not the way to go about things. This shouldn't be the way to go about things at all. It should not happen. Like, it should not go on like this. Like, it's honestly disgusting. Like, I'm speechless. Like, it's really disgusting. The wrestling community, like any fandom, any community, like any person, like doing stuff like this, stop. Because you're doing yourself no favors as a human being. And you're scaring people off like people scared off Ricochet's wife. I get it. Ricochet's comments were distasteful. They were 100% distasteful. They were. But that doesn't mean, like, it doesn't mean you should send death threats to Ricochet's wife over what he said. You shouldn't even be sending death threats at all. Again, we live in a society where people love wishing death upon other people. It's sad, honestly. The lack of morality in people in society today is baffling to me. People have a lack of morality, unfortunately. And it's a shame. It's a shame, and it's absolutely horrible, in my opinion. It's really, really, really stupid. Don't be like these people, because even though these people think that they're doing quote unquote good for people who suffer through things like MS, they don't care about that situation at all. They don't care. They only care about themselves. They only care about themselves. Do not be like these people. Do not be like these people sending death threats. And in terms of Ricochet, again, his comments were beyond stupid. And of course he was going to get put in hot water. If I was Tony Khan, me personally, I would have suspended him for a while. And, like, this is a lesson for you to, like, get off social media and not say stupid stuff on social media. Like Ricochet really needs to tone it down on Twitter. Like, he really does. Like, his tweets on X, honestly, it's gotten to the point where it's just embarrassing. It really has been. But in my opinion, like, again, like, this is a severe case of people embarrassing themselves on social media and not knowing that they're embarrassing themselves on social media. Like, he only found out, like, the only reason why he apologized was because of the fact that he got himself in hot water. That's really the only reason why. And honestly, like, I think he made the right call in posting that apology. He did, but still, anything that you put on the internet will live in infamy. Anything you put on the internet will stay in the internet forever. It will. And unfortunately, nobody is going to forget that tweet that Ricochet put out. Nobody's going to forget about that. Moving on this edition of the WrestleHavoc podcast, we're going to be talking about Ronda Rousey. Yes, Ronda Rousey, of course. She made her AEW debut at Revolution. And again, sparked a lot of, and I talked about this on last week's show, but it sparked a lot of conversation as to whether or not it was the right decision or the wrong decision to bring her in. I flat out stated, and I still stand by this, I think it was a smart move by bringing in Ronda Rousey. It was a smart move by bringing in Ronda Rousey, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say that her run in WWE was amazing, because in my opinion, her run as a whole, if you really look at it in a way, it was kind of a success, but at the same time a failure. Her first go around with the company was great. Of course, main event at the first women's main event at WrestleMania. First women's main event at WrestleMania, which was 39, which was my first WrestleMania that I attended. And it was a great match. Ended randomly, but it was still not a bad match. But her second go around in WWE, her second run was pretty bad. It sounded like she didn't want to be there. Her promo skills were atrocious. It was just not good at all. But I think from a business standpoint, it made total sense for AEW to bring her in, considering she has a big fight with Gina Carano at Netflix's MVP card, and it's going to be their first venture in mixed martial arts, and that's definitely going to get a lot of eyeballs, regardless of what you think about, the fight itself. Like 9 times out of 10, the fight between Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey is just not going to be good. But to MVP and the people at Netflix, they don't care, because they run things by analytics. And whether you like it or not, everybody's going to be watching that fight. Everybody's going to be watching that fight. So I think it was a smart move for AEW to bring Ronda Rousey, especially at the height of this press tour that she's going to be going on with her fight against Gina Carano. But we have an update on her AEW status. I'm reading this from F4WOnline.com. These are the people of the Wrestling Observer. At AEW Revolution 2026, Ronda Rousey shocked the world when she made her AEW debut, and now reports have emerged about her status with the promotion. While Rousey appeared at Revolution with Marina Shafir and shared a confrontation with Toni Storm, Fightful Select notes that she is not yet All Elite and has not signed with the promotion. Previously, the people at the Wrestling Observer reported that people in WWE were shocked to see Rousey's AEW debut. Fightful Select has now shared that its sources reported on Rousey receiving the desired reaction in AEW after arriving as a heel. However, it was also noted that Rousey seemed to have a different reaction, or seemed to have expected a different reaction. Fightful Select sources in TKO and WWE claimed that they expect Rousey to, quote-unquote, do anything that she can do against WWE, UFC, and TKO at this point, and in a way I kind of agree with them, ironically, because if you watch the first Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano press conference, basically the gist and the majority of everything that Ronda Rousey was talking about was how bad the UFC was with this, how bad they don't pay their fighters, this and that. And look, on the whole instance of fighter pay, I'm in agreement with her. I think fighters, especially in the UFC, are vastly underpaid. That's why you see a lot of former MMA fighters go to boxing, because they get paid more. And at the end of the day, these fighters are risking their lives 100%. I agree with Ronda Rousey, but the perception with a lot of people is she's just constantly talking down and running down the UFC. And I totally get that perspective. But at the same time, a lot of the things that Ronda Rousey said at that press conference, she was right about. She was not wrong at all. They do not also see her wanting to return to WWE anytime soon in the future. No follow-up or creative plans have been heard for Ronda Rousey just yet. She was a local to the Los Angeles area, and appearing on Revolution was a quote-unquote easy trip for her. Rousey is also scheduled to fight Gina Carano in her MMA comeback fight on May 16th under the banner MVP, which is Most Valuable Promotions. Okay. So basically, this is stating what I just said. She's not signed yet. She is not signed with the promotion. And from what it looks like, this is probably most likely going to be a one-off. Do I see her making other appearances in AEW? Yes. Look, the way that they shot the angle, with Toni Storm and Ronda Rousey, kind of confronting one another, clearly it set the stage for a future Toni Storm and Ronda Rousey match. But I don't think it's smart for Ronda Rousey to go in an industry that she, by the way, despises, that being professional wrestling, and, in the midst of the buildup to her fight against Gina Carano, risk possible injury. Like it makes no sense. Depending on how the fight goes, I do see her appearing in AEW in the future. And look, again, I think it's a smart business move for AEW to bring in Ronda Rousey because, again, everybody is going to be watching that fight on Netflix, regardless of what you think of the fight. Everybody's going to be watching it. It's basically the same mentality that MVP had with the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. Yeah, the fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul sounds really stupid considering Mike Tyson is well, he is retired at this point and he's coming out of retirement at an old age, and you're having him fight Jake Paul, who, by the way, is in the prime of his career. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever, but they don't care about that. They care about, number one, the payday, and they care about the amount of people that are going to be watching, the fight. MVP, and a lot of people have stated this, a lot of, fight content creators, a lot of MMA, a lot of boxing content creators have stated this, and I agree with them. MVP, it's not like your normal MMA promotion. I mean, like they promote boxing events, and now they're venturing into MMA. They're in the big live event business. Like, they're in the big event business. Netflix does not want like, a UFC type deal where they have like however many events per year, like 80 something events per. No, they're not in the business. They're only in the big event business. Hence why we saw, the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, which, by the way, the production of that show was fantastic. I love MVP's production. Their production's amazing. And we're going to be getting this fight with Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey. We got the Nate Diaz is going to be on that card. Francis Ngannou is going to be on the card. Everybody's going to be watching that fight. Regardless, like casual fans are going to be watching that fight. Non-MMA fans are going to be watching that fight as well. MVP is actually doing a smart move, and they're actually trying to cater to the casual fan. Something that PFL has never done. PFL, like, is now considering MVP to be like the number 2 MMA promotion, which is kind of laughable in a way, but at the same time, it's not far-fetched. What is PFL? You know what I'm saying? PFL, like, they're not Strikeforce. they're not Strikeforce. But, and I could even make this argument. AEW is a much bigger number 2 promotion than PFL. Now, with MVP, it's a different story, but still. A lot of people are considering MVP to be the number 2 MMA promotion. I totally get that. But again, this whole MMA event is a one-off. We do not know if they're going to fully venture into MMA. But in terms of Ronda Rousey's status with AEW, look, she hasn't signed yet. She still has to prepare for her fight. And who knows? See, depending on how the fight will go, if the event is going to be it's obviously going to be a big deal, but if the event is, perceived well by the public, and, if Ronda Rousey wins her fight, or even if she loses her fight, if the fight in any way, shape, or form, like, ends up being really good, like, let's be honest, the best fight on that card is the Nate Diaz fight. Like, that's going to be the best fight on the card. But, like, if in any way, shape, or form, like, that women's fight is going to be, amazing, and it gets a lot of people talking, and Ronda comes back to wrestling in AEW, I mean, you can definitely play off that. You can play off that hype, and I think it's a smart business move. Ronda Rousey still has name value. Has her name value diminished? Like, it's nowhere near, like, the peak of her popularity. Her popularity was around, like, 2015, 2016. That was the peak of Ronda Rousey. That was, in my opinion, that was, like, her UFC run. Like, that was the peak of Ronda Rousey. But again, even if her popularity in a way has kind of diminished, she still holds a name value. And it's smart for AEW to bring her in, whether or not this was a one-off. Now, in terms of a future match with Toni Storm, we're probably not going to be seeing that anytime soon, considering the fact that Toni Storm is set to be injured, and she's going to be out for a significant amount of time. So, Timeless Toni Storm, I'm reading this from the Takedown on Sports Illustrated. It sounds as though it's going to be a good long while before Timeless Toni Storm graces our television screens once again. The 4-time AEW Women's World Champion was originally scheduled to take on Marina Shafir in a no-holds-barred match this past Wednesday on Dynamite, but that did not end up happening. 10 minutes before the show went live on TBS and HBO Max, the AEW social media team released a video revealing that Toni Storm has been taken out backstage. She was ultimately replaced in the match by her Timeless Love Bombs tag team partner, Mina Shirakawa. The Takedown on Sports Illustrated stated this as well. Word first began to surface on Thursday that Storm was expected to be out of action for a long time, and that report has now been corroborated by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select. SRS says that it was very deliberate that Toni was laid out in a non-contact angle, and the room where she was discovered was purposely filled with Easter eggs to encourage fan speculation on who carried out the attack. As things stand, Storm will not be in the ring anytime soon, Sean Ross Sapp wrote in his report on Friday afternoon. We're told that AEW is prepared for her not to be cleared to wrestle through 2026 at a minimum. There are already plans in order for the attacker storyline and a creative direction for it. Details surrounding Storm's injury, including when it occurred, are unknown at this time, and there has not even been any kind of confirmation that she is in fact hurt. This is a huge loss for the AEW Women's Division, as Toni Storm has been at or near the top of the card for the past few years, and it certainly looked as though major plans were being put into motion for her this spring and summer. Prior to her defeating Marina Shafir at AEW Revolution, Storm expressed her desire to win back the AEW Women's title. Then during the show, she came face-to-face with a multi-time WWE Women's Champion Ronda Rousey. That purpose of that encounter remains unclear. There is a bit of good news, however. While Toni Storm is going to be on the shelf for an extended period of time, Mercedes Moné is getting ready to make her return to AEW. She stated this, and I quote, "I am returning really, really soon," Moné told Wrestling Time in Italy. "Right now, I am on my Moné Madness tour all over Europe. It ends in Canada, though. First, it started in Mexico, now here in Italy. Next stop is Paris, then London, then Poland, then Winnipeg. So after that, Mama is going to return home." The Takedown on Sports Illustrated will provide another update on Moné's return date and Storm's injury status as soon as more information becomes available. Okay, so in terms of Toni Storm, it's definitely a big loss. If it is true, and you know she is injured. A lot of people are saying she probably got injured in her match against Marina Shafir at Revolution. We do not know. It's still like we don't even know if she's really injured at this point. But if they really did wrote her off TV, you know, it really does suck. But at the same time, AEW also did play out this angle, and Sports Illustrated did, and you know, Sean Ross Sapp confirmed this as well. AEW has plans for a storyline based off of this angle that took place roughly before Dynamite went even on the air, with with Toni Storm being laid out in her locker room. Who attacked Toni Storm? Apparently they got plans for that. I have no idea about that. We do not know. Was it Ronda Rousey? I doubt it. But again, you know, what was like, again, if you watched, and this is the main question that I have to ask. If you watched Revolution and you saw that angle that they played out with Toni Storm and Ronda Rousey, you know, don't you think it would have been smart for AEW to sign Ronda Rousey? Like, they would have known that, like, she has a fight happening at MVP. And look, I don't think she's good. Even if they had signed her, I don't think she would have been wrestling anytime soon. Like, after her fight, I think she would have like started wrestling, and that very well could still be the case. But AEW did not sign her yet. Why is that? We're going to have to wait and see. But according to that update from the Wrestling Observer, like, she was a local there. Like, she was just in town, basically. We do not know what is going to go on with Toni Storm or Ronda Rousey. We're going to have to wait and see. I know a lot, again, there was a lot of backlash regarding regarding Ronda Rousey, but still, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But it's a big loss for the AEW women's division at a time where the women's division is not really doing so well in AEW right now. So it's going to be a big loss. But hey, we got Mercedes Moné coming back further on down the line. Okay, in our next topic, we are going to be talking about ticket sales for AEW. AEW Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing is going to be taking place at Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, New York, and I'm very excited for that show. I'm very curious to see what AEW does. But Double or Nothing has already surpassed 8,900 tickets distributed as of late March 2026, outpacing the 2025's events, 8,200 total. The show has experienced strong demand with over $100,000 generated from premium packages and standard tickets available for as low as $37 to $50. So the current setup for the show is roughly around 9,000, like almost 10,000 at this point, and the capacity is 14,000. So overall, number one, Double or Nothing is definitely. I'm very excited for Double or Nothing. I'm glad that they're going into the New York market. I can vividly remember when Double or Nothing was always in Las Vegas, and it was so like embarrassing whenever they would go to Las Vegas because the crowd would always be dead. Kind of reminded me of WWE and WrestleMania. Like, you know, this is the second year in a row that WrestleMania is going to be in Las Vegas, and I am not excited whatsoever. But I'm glad that Double or Nothing, a show like Double or Nothing, which is basically one of their biggest shows of the year, is going to be taking place in New York. And look, the show has strong demand. The New York market has always been great to AEW, and I'm so happy that they they're seeing the success. Now, in terms of All In, so All In, the pre-sale went down for All In, and it's looking pretty good. Now, the capacity is very questionable for me, but I don't think that's going to be the final capacity for Wembley Stadium. I just can't fathom this number being the final capacity for, All In at Wembley Stadium. But for the AEW All In 2026 event at Wembley Stadium, approximately 19,883 tickets were sold during the initial pre-sale and first day of the general sale combined, according to WrestleTix via Facebook. This figure was reached within the first few days of tickets being available, showing strong early demand for the 2026 event. The capacity status, and this is the capacity, this is the amount of tickets that they have on sale right now. The setup is set to be around 37,396 seats. Wembley Stadium holds roughly around well over 80,000, almost, I believe, in the 90,000 range. 37,000 fans in a 90,000 seat stadium is kind of embarrassing to me. If you compare, they sold 20. Look, I'm going to say this right here and right now. AEW selling 20,000 tickets, on the first day of general on sale and pre-sale is great for them. It shows that there's definitely demand for the event. And if you really want to take things into consideration, WrestleMania, as of right now, for WrestleMania Saturday, they distributed roughly around 37,000 tickets. Now think about this. Think about this. This is a struggling WrestleMania. And for night 2 of WrestleMania, they distributed 38,000 tickets. And basically, AEW kind of in a way sold almost half of that in a span of a couple of days, which is great to see. But if you look at previous numbers for previous All-Ins, to take things into consideration, for the 2023 AEW All-In event at Wembley Stadium, over 36,000 tickets were sold during the initial pre-sale on May 2nd, 2023. This was 3 years ago. 36,000 tickets were sold during the initial pre-sale for the event. 36,000 tickets. And that number increased to over 43,000 tickets by the following day, as reported by Forbes and a lot of other publications. By the time general sales opened on May 5th, 2023, the total surpassed 60,000 tickets sold. Take things into consideration, on May 2nd, 2023, there were over 36,000 tickets sold. On May 3rd, the number went up to 43,000 tickets, and on May 5th, which was the general on-sale start, over 60,000 tickets were sold. Obviously, when they were going to return to Wembley Stadium in 2024, there was going to be a significant drop. During the first 4 days of the pre-sale for All in London 2024, AEW sold approximately 33,923 tickets. Those were during the first 4 days of the pre-sale for All In. The pre-sale for the event began on Monday, November 27th, 2023, and led to the general public on sale on Friday, December 1st, 2023. There was heavy promotion for this show, by the way. They sold tickets well into the winter. Under 2 days, they nearly sold 30,000 tickets. The initial count was around 33,000, and from mid-December, by December 15th, 2023, the ticket sales risen to 37,451. So what is my point that I'm trying to get across? There's clearly a decrease in ticket sales. Clearly, the previous All-In at Wembley Stadium shows had more demand. They clearly had more demand. And not only that, the setup for the show is roughly up to 37,396, which is a very disappointing capacity number, in my opinion. If you're at Wembley Stadium, you want to strive for at least 50,000, which I do believe they will. My opinion, I do think that they will open up more sections as we go further on down the line, and I do believe that they will. I don't think this is going to be the final capacity, but 37,000 is not really a good number, especially for a stadium like Wembley, in my opinion. Now, The fact that they sold almost 20,000 tickets already is great. And it clearly shows that there is some demand, especially in the UK. Every time whenever, AEW goes somewhere international like the UK, there's always high demand for the show, and that is great to see. But again, this is Wembley Stadium we're talking about, and you should strive to really, go. You should really strive to really sell the most tickets that you possibly can. Do I think that there's going to be a slight decrease from 2024? Yes, but I do believe that they will still get to that 50,000 mark, at least. 50,000 is fine for me, especially at a show in Wembley Stadium, but for 37,000 to me is not the best capacity number. That's just me. I may be totally wrong. And look, I do believe that they will eventually open up more sections in the future. If the demand is high, by all means, open up more sections, but 37,000 to me, yes, that is an accomplishment, but at the same time, again, it's in Wembley Stadium. You should strive for higher. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the ticket sales for All In at Wembley Stadium. In our next topic, we are going to be talking about Tony Khan. Tony Khan, this has been very AEW heavy, this edition of the WrestleHavoc podcast. And a bombshell story came out, and it shocked a lot of people. I'm reading this again from the Takedown on Sports Illustrated. They summarize things very, very, very well. AEW president Tony Khan tried to purchase World Wrestling Entertainment. The McMahon family had held majority ownership in WWE up until 2023, when it was sold to Endeavor, which eventually formed the current ownership group of TKO. Previous public filings stated that the Formula One parent company, Liberty Media, and private equity firm KKR were two of three other bidders for WWE. The fourth bidder, Khan, was unknown until this point, having his name redacted until recent court filings. Now it's been revealed, and it's certainly going to have wrestling fans talking. According to a report from Brandon Thurston of Post Wrestling, recent court filings disclose that Base 10, a company that is backed by Khan, also placed a bid for WWE when it went up for sale. The information is mentioned in an ongoing shareholder lawsuit filed in November of 2023 that alleges the merger process was unfair because Endeavor was believed to be the pre-selected choice by Vince McMahon due to an agreement with Endeavor executive Ari Emanuel, who guaranteed McMahon a role in the company. It's noted that while Khan is not mentioned by name in the complaint, the connection is obvious. Base 10 is the owner of All Elite Wrestling, a professional wrestling promotion that plainly would enjoy significant synergies with WWE, the filing states. SEC filings by WWE use, again, this is legal lingo, so I apologize if I pronounce this wrong, pseudonyms. Again, this is legal lingo. I don't know what the hell this says. For the four bidders, as KKR was a financial sponsor, One Liberty was a strategic party 1, and Base 10 was a strategic party 2. Meanwhile, the SEC filing by WWE noted that strategic party 2 or Base 10 had indicated that it would need equity and debt financing partners in order to complete a transaction with WWE, obviously, because WWE, how many billions of dollars was that company sold for? I have no idea, but it was billions of dollars. Of course, you're going to go into debt. The report mentions that Khan declined to provide a statement and that the press inquiries for this report sent to AEW, WWE, and TKO were not returned. And then Sports Illustrated goes on to say, what if Tony Khan bought WWE? What would have happened? Okay, so this definitely sent a lot of, I don't want to say shockwaves because that's just putting it ridiculously, but a lot of people were quite shocked about this story coming out. I'm going to say this right here and right now. I'm not surprised whatsoever. I'm going to be honest. I am not surprised in any way, shape, or form that Tony Khan tried to purchase WWE. Everybody was trying to purchase WWE when the company was up for sale. Everybody was. Tony Khan is a big wrestling fan, and obviously he placed a bid in buying WWE, obviously. But I'm going to say this right here and right now. As much as I like Tony Khan, and a lot of people like Tony Khan, a lot of people do, Tony Khan buying WWE would have been, in my opinion, the single worst thing to ever happen in professional wrestling. I'm going to be brutally honest. The single worst thing to ever happen to the professional wrestling industry. Why? And again, this is not a knock on Tony Khan, but this is basically a case of monopolizing the industry. One person having control of the two largest promotions in the United States. Regardless of whether or not you like Tony Khan or hate Tony Khan, you have to agree with me that this would have been bad for the industry. Because again, it monopolizes the business. You know, I do believe WWE obviously was still going to exist. Like, if Tony Khan bought WWE, obviously he was going to keep it running. Because WWE is a money machine. It generates billions of dollars every single year in merchandise and the television contracts that they have. I mean, they got multiple television contracts across multiple different platforms here in the United States. If Tony Khan had bought WWE, imagine, like, what would the media rights landscape be? You know, he'd have access to the CW. He'd have access to, you know, Netflix, NBC Universal. Like, he'd have access to all of those platforms. It would have been a very interesting dynamic. But again, it's one entity owning the two major players in the industry. That's never, never, never a good thing. Look what's happening in Hollywood right now with the Paramount and Warner Brothers merger that's taking place. Warner Brothers was basically an institution in entertainment, an institution, and now they're being gobbled up by Paramount. They were going to get gobbled up by Netflix, and honestly, that probably would have been a little bit worse. It's still bad with Paramount, don't get me wrong, but you know, it would have been worse with Netflix, considering, again, Netflix does not care a lot about the theatrical experience. They care more about the analytical side of, you know, their streaming service. Because at the end of the day, Netflix is a streaming entity. They never really cared about the theatrical experience. It's kind of the same thing here in a way. Like, imagine if Tony Khan had bought WWE, what would have happened? People are saying, oh, he would have ran WWE into the ground. No. If Tony Khan bought WWE, I think he would have run it. He would have ran WWE exactly how WWE is being run now. I actually believe that. Because in WWE, there is a structure in WWE. There is a corporate structure, and there is a structure that is there in place for WWE. He would have kept it afloat because he would have known that, hey, look, WWE is literally making us billions of dollars. Why the hell would I change anything about this successful, you know, business? Why would I change it? I have this business that I like running, but I also have WWE as well, and I'm going to make money on it regardless. But still, Tony Khan buying WWE, in my opinion, would have been a horrible thing for the industry. Horrible, horrible, horrible thing for the industry. It also would have been, in a way, kind of hilarious and pretty much shocking, like a competitor buying the industry leader, a number 2 buying the number 1. Nobody's ever seen that. And I'm going to go even further and say, if Tony Khan was actually successful and WWE accepted his bid, in a way, he kind of would have been a modern day. And no, I'm not going to say he is like Vince McMahon, because he is not. I'm only comparing him to Vince McMahon in terms of his expansion and his, you know, his business mind in terms of expanding the WWF in the 80s. It kind of would have been something similar to that. But again, Tony Khan is no Vince McMahon. You know, he's just not. All the good qualities of Vince McMahon, you know, from like the promoter side of Vince McMahon, like Tony Khan does not have that. Tony Khan is Tony Khan. He is. But in terms of, like, you know, expanding and buying the industry leader, like, it's very, you know, it's very interesting to see where things could have gone. But again, it wouldn't have been a good thing for the industry. And I know a lot of the diehard AEW fans would have been like celebrating. Do not listen to those fans because they're not fans of professional wrestling. They're not. They will tell you that they are, but they're not. And I know they're going to get mad at me for saying that, but they're not fans of professional wrestling. They only care about their own promotion. They don't care about the health of the industry. They would have celebrated like crazy. But still. This would have been bad for the industry, but it shocked a lot of people, but I'm not as shocked as a lot of other people are. Like, I'm just not as shocked. But yeah, that's the story on Tony Khan possibly buying WWE a couple of years ago. Moving on, Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman has been announced for the WWE Hall of Fame. Earlier today, it was announced by ESPN's Shams Charania. Again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. That Dennis Rodman will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame as a member of the class of 2026. A five-time NBA champion and a key member of the iconic Detroit Pistons and Chicago Bulls team. Rodman took over the sports page headlines when he aligned with the New World Order in WCW in 1997, known as Rodzilla. He teamed up with Hulk Hogan to face Lex Luger and the Giant in the highly publicized main event of WCW Bash at the Beach. Following Chicago's win over Utah Jazz in Game 3 of the 1998 NBA Finals, Rodman famously missed a Bulls practice to appear on WCW Monday Nitro in Detroit, where he and Hogan attacked Diamond Dallas Page. Rodman once again tagged with Hogan face-on on-court rival Karl Malone and DDP at Bash at the Beach in 1998. Rodman also had a memorable match against the legendary Macho Man Randy Savage at WCW Road Wild in 1999. 2026 Hall of Fame ceremony will take place Friday, April 17th in Las Vegas as part of WrestleMania 42 week. Okay. Dennis Rodman, a very interesting figure. He's definitely their celebrity inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame, and he's a big wrestling fan. I mean, the stories that we heard from WCW, of course. He missed Bulls practice to go on Nitro. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. It's kind of badass. But in terms of the this inductee, again, I'm happy for Dennis Rodman. It's a great induction, but it doesn't really excite me as much as like AJ's induction into the Hall of Fame, but that's just me. But yeah, man, Dennis Rodman is in the WWE Hall of Fame. AEW Dynasty is going to be taking place on Sunday, April 12th, 2025. It's going to be in Vancouver, and it's going to be taking place at the Rogers Arena, and it's selling well in tickets. But we got our first match announced for Dynasty, and it's going to be Cage and Cope. That's what they named Edge and Christian Cage. Cage and Cope. Still hate that name. I still hate that name, Cope, man. That name, Cope, is absolutely horrible. Of course, the returning Edge and Christian Cage will be taking on current AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR for the World Tag Team titles at Dynasty. So that is the first match announced for the show. In terms of WrestleMania, we got WrestleMania, and this is going to be our final topic. We're going to be running down the card real quick. We're basically going to be running down every week up until WrestleMania. We're going to be running down the card for WrestleMania because, again, the card is constantly changing. But we got Brock Lesnar taking on Obafemi. We got the women's world title on the line as Stephanie Vaquer defends her title against the Royal Rumble winner, the women's Royal Rumble winner, Liv Morgan. We got the women's title match as Jade Cargill will take on Rhea Ripley. We got the World Heavyweight title match as we got CM Punk versus Roman Reigns, which will be the actual main event for WrestleMania. That will be the main event of night 2. And their segment this past Monday on Raw was absolutely fantastic. I actually go in depth on it in my last episode of the podcast, so I'm actually going to be uploading a clip about that as well, so be on the lookout for that. But I love the inclusion of the Usos. Again, Roman Reigns calling CM Punk old was hilarious. Not only that, I love the mention of Samoa Joe as well in the beginning of that segment, but the fact that Roman Reigns called CM Punk old and it really triggered CM Punk was hilarious. clearly shows, I think the story that they're trying to tell is CM Punk is really starting to be a little bit insecure. So be on the lookout for that, but it's very interesting. I'm a big fan of that build. The match is going to be fantastic. And of course, we got the main event of night one, the undisputed WWE title match between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Now, a lot of interesting things are playing out. Of course, Randy Orton, in a way, is the heel in this match, but at the same time, it sparked a lot of conversation on social media as to whether or not, turning him heel is the right move, considering the fact that if you watch SmackDown this past Friday, Randy Orton, he got fans were singing his song. Like, fans love Randy Orton at this point. Was the heel turn the right move? Look, I'm going to say this right here and right now. Randy Orton is still the heel. He is still the heel in this match. It's going to be a big task. It would have been worse if it was a babyface versus babyface match. I said this last week. It would have been worse if it was a babyface versus babyface match. Let's be honest with ourselves. It's no secret that Cody Rhodes is, starting to get that mixed reaction from the audience. And it's bound to happen with any top WWE babyface. That babyface is guaranteed to get a mixed reaction, especially, if they're at the top for a certain period of time. And Cody Rhodes has been at the top for well over 2 years at this point. Almost 2 years at this point. The Cody fatigue is real. Because if you watch any Cody Rhodes promo, it's basically the same thing. It's basically the same thing. No shade on Cody Rhodes. Do I think that they should turn him heel now? Absolutely not. He's still a money draw for them. And it would be very foolish for them to turn Cody Rhodes heel. Even then, if you turn Cody Rhodes heel, who the hell are you going to build up that is going to be on the level of Cody Rhodes when he's the heel? Who are you going to build up? WWE currently has nobody to build up, so it makes no sense for them to turn Cody Rhodes heel. So that's why it made sense for them to turn Randy heel. Now, we're entering into Las Vegas territory for WrestleMania once again. And if you watch the first John Cena and Cody Rhodes match at WrestleMania last year, Cody Rhodes did get booed out of the building. Now, granted, it was John Cena that he was going up against, and people, even though John Cena was the heel, everybody was cheering John Cena. But still, people were starting to boo Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes is starting to gain that mixed reaction. Do I think the fans are going to boo Cody Rhodes even though Randy Orton is the heel at WrestleMania in Vegas? I do think fans are going to boo Cody Rhodes. I think it's going to be a big challenge for WWE, but I stand by my statement. I do think them turning Randy Orton heel was the smart move. It was the smart move because you're not going to have a babyface versus babyface at WrestleMania. That's just not exciting. You need something exciting for WrestleMania. And the only thing exciting for WrestleMania this year is is CM Punk versus Roman Reigns, not Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Turning Randy Orton heel and doing what you're doing with him by bashing Cody Rhodes with the chair, him attacking Matt Cardona, like, you're doing at least something to garner somewhat of excitement. But Randy Orton is the heel even though fans are cheering him. That's the world that we live in now, but Randy Orton is the heel. Also, the biggest question that we need to ask ourselves is, you guys watched Raw and SmackDown this week. Randy Orton was on the phone with somebody. Who was he on the phone with? I heard a lot of theories as to who Randy was talking to on the phone. Some people were saying it was the final boss. It was The Rock. It was definitely not The Rock. Why would it be The Rock? The Rock is not even committed to this. He was not committed last year. What makes you think he's going to be committed this year? He was not committed last year. What makes you think he's going to be committed this year? Some people were even pointing out Ted DiBiase Jr., who who got the not guilty treatment. Yes, he wasn't guilty in the charges that were against him. So good on Ted DiBiase Jr., but I don't think Ted DiBiase Jr. is going to attack Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. I don't think that's going to be the case, but still, who knows what could happen. But in terms of who Randy Orton was talking to, we're going to have to wait and see. But that's a very interesting development that we are going to be definitely paying attention here as we get closer and closer to the WWE title match between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton at WrestleMania. But yeah, that's the card so far for WrestleMania 42. Again, Not the best card in the world. The only the only two matches that I'm really excited about is Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi. And even that match has a little bit of controversy in it, considering there's been reports that Brock Lesnar is refusing to lose certain matches because, he's at the wit's end of his career. Look, at the end of the day, SummerSlam is going to be in Minneapolis, Minnesota this year. People are saying that that's where Brock Lesnar is going to have his last match. I don't think that's going to be the case. I may be totally wrong. Nobody knows when Brock Lesnar's last match is going to be, but there's been a lot of controversy in terms of that, considering, there's been stories that Brock Lesnar's refusing to lose, all that stuff. But we're going to have to wait and see. But the only two matches that I'm really excited for this year's WrestleMania is Brock Lesnar and Obafemi and CM Punk and Roman Reigns. And maybe Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Everything else, I could honestly care less. WrestleMania this year is going to be most likely, hopefully not a dud. It's been a dud in terms of the build. In terms of the show itself, I hope it's good. I have hopes it's going to be good, and I hope it's better than last year. Last year's WrestleMania wasn't really the best WrestleMania, but yeah, it's my take on WrestleMania 42 as of right now. That's the current card for this year's WrestleMania in Las Vegas. And yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast on this Sunday, March 22nd, 2026. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Push that bell for notifications. That means look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast channel, which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. As always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all next week. Peace.